Okay, are we okay with this so far? So the second part of the question is asking you what is the y-intercept and explain what it represents. So you always remember that you're going to have to ask yourself, what form do I want it to be in order to find what the question is asking me for. So I want it to be in standard form, right? Because standard form, the last number, that's your y-intercept. Good. Now, how can I go from vertex form to standard form? What do I have to do? Expand. Yeah. So let's expand. So to expand this, I'm going to p equals to negative 0.3. I have to write n minus 7 twice. You guys remember that? Yeah. I write it twice because I want to FOIL. And now I FOIL. So n squared minus 7n minus 7n plus 49 Then what do I do after that? Group the like terms. Where did the 49 come from? Negative 7 times negative 7 is 4. Okay? Group the like terms. So that's going to be negative 0.3 n squared minus 14n plus 49 plus 10.8. What do I do after that? Multiply the negative 0.3 in. That's going to be plus 4.2n and minus 14.7 plus 10.8. So what I did right now is I multiplied that negative 0.3 in. Right? So it's called distribute. So distribute that negative 0.3 into all the terms inside the bracket. And then now I collect like terms, so I only have the like terms at the end. So it's going to be negative 0.3 n squared plus 4.2 n minus 3.9. Okay. So what is your y-intercept? Negative 3.9. And what does that represent in this scenario? What does y represent in our scenario? The profit, that's right. So it represents the profit. If you have a profit of negative 3.9, what does that mean? Are you making money? That means you're losing $3,900 in this case, right? So that means your initial profit is a loss of $3,900, which makes sense. If you make zero product, right, you have your rental, you have your stuff that you have bought and whatever, and you haven't made any money because you haven't produced anything, you haven't sold anything. You could have produced it, but you never sold it, right? So, in this case, it says that the initial profit is a loss of $3,900. the question is asking me for the y-intercept, I want it to be in the standard form, right? Because it's easier to find. Now the third question is asking you, what are the zeros, and explain what they represent. So what form do I want it to be in? Factored form. That's correct. So I haven't learned how to go from vertex to factored, but I have learned how to go from standard to factored. Right? So what are the methods? Can you guys remind me? Common factor, that's your first, and always you're going to ask yourself that. Then you're going to have to difference of squares or sum and product. Okay, so let's look at the one that we have. So we have profit equals to, okay, now this is deciding to act weird. What's the first thing you always ask yourself when you're factoring?
Is it the perfect? No, is it the binomial?
What do you have to ask yourself first? Do I have a greatest common factor? Do I? In your case, you're going to have to think about a number so you can get rid of this, otherwise you won't be able to factor. You don't know how to factor, right? So can I divide all the terms? So if I divide 4.2 by 0.3, do I get a full whole number? Can you try that for me?
4.2.
2 divided by, 4.2 divided by 0.3. Do you get a whole number? You get a whole number, right? How about if you divide 3.9 by 0.3? Do you get a whole number?
Yeah.
So that means I'm getting whole numbers, that means negative 0.3 is a factor. So which means I can factor out negative 0.3. The reason why I'm factoring the negative is because I don't want that negative in front of my first term. So I have to divide each of these terms by negative 0.3. So when I divide negative 0.3 by negative 0.3, that's going to give me 1 n squared. You guys told me that's 4.2 divided by negative 0.3, that's going to be
21.
negative 21n. And then negative 3.9 divided by negative 0.3?
13. 3.9.
What is it? 13? Okay. This is not right, right? Okay. That's a good thing right now because then I have whole numbers, right? And then I can find the factors. Trinomial or binomial? What do I have?
A trinomial.
Trinomial. That means I have to follow which method?
Yeah,
Sum and product. Yeah. So I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to what and add to what?
multiply by 13.
Multiply to 13 and add to
14.
what multiplies to 13 and add to negative 14. So B is negative, C is positive.
1 and 14. 1 and 13.
1 and 13. B is negative, C is positive, that means both of them have to be negative. it's gonna be -1 and -13. I don't think I have any other options. 13 is a prime number. Okay? So do they add to -14?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Okay? So that means my factors are going to be n minus 13 and n minus 1. Are we okay with this so far? Now, what are your zeros? 13 and
-1.
and
1.
remember, you set them equal to 0 and you move it over so it gives you the opposite answer. Okay, so my two zeros are 13 and 1. What does that mean in this example? So if you're looking at the zeros, right? So I have this, right? At 1, I have 0 profit. And at 13, I also have 0 profit. What does that mean in business mode?
Comparing the previous year with the current.
We're talking about how many chocolates you sold and how much profit you made. So if you sold 1,000 chocolate, you're gonna make how much profit?
0.
0 profit. If you sold 13,000 chocolate bars, how much profit are you gonna make?
0.
0. What do we call this in business? When whatever you make is equal to whatever you spend. What's the word for it? It's not loss. It's not profit. It's actually 2 words. Breaking even. That's right. Break even. Yep. You guys got it. So in this case, if you sell 1,000 chocolate bars, you're going to make 0 profit. If you sell 13,000 chocolate bars, you're going to get 0 profit, which means you're going to break. Okay? So let's write a statement. So the zeros are 13 and 1. They represent the break-even point, which means at 1,000 and 13,000 bars sold, the profit is $0. Does it make sense? Like basically we found our initial, right? We found when the company start making 0 money, right? When it breaks even, then the company is gonna make more money as it sells more chocolate until it reach a maximum profit, and then after that, the company is gonna start losing money if it sells more than that. Okay, has to do with like. That means like if they make more than, or if they sell more than 7,000, then they're gonna have to buy another machine, for example, to make more, so they can supply the demand, and that's gonna that's gonna affect how much money they're making and things like this. That's why. Okay? They're gonna have to hire more people. They're gonna have to do this. Now, you see how much work I'm showing you? I'm expecting the same amount of work from you guys on the test. You guys just blah one answer on to answer the question. This is not a solution for me. Okay? I don't care about the numbers as much as I care about how you got to the number. Make sense? All right. So we use the three formats in this question. We use the vertex form, we use the standard form, and we use the factor. Now, how do I solve a word problem? So to solve the word problem, you're gonna understand the problem, okay? Read the problem, see what form it's given to you in, see what the letters represent. Because the first thing I asked you guys, what does N and P represent, right? How can I relate them to what I know, which is the X and Y? Which one is the X, which one is the Y, right? You have to understand this, because 90% of the time, your question is not going to be Y equals to blah, 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 X, right? The question is going to be letters that are not Y and X. You have to understand which one's Y, which one's X, because you need to know which one represents your X value of the vertex, which one represents your Y value of the vertex, and so on and so forth. Make sense at this point? Eyes on me. Make sense at this point? Okay. Now, you want to make a visual. You guys see what I just did right here at the beginning, right? I drew it. I just sketched it. Doesn't have to be, right? I could have sketched it like this, right? I could have went like this. This is right? No, this is not, right? Because my profit is not positive to start with, okay? It doesn't matter. As long as you sketch to vision. Okay? So I sketched it, I put my variables on the X and Y, so I know that N represents the X-axis, P represents the Y-axis, so I can see. Then you're going to look for keywords to solve your problem. Okay? So when the question is asking you for initial point, what does that represent in math terminology?
The maximum.
Initial.
Oh, where it starts.
Where it starts, which is what?
At the vertex.
No, it doesn't start with the vertex. It's the initial point is your y-intercept. So it's when it's 0, when x is 0. Okay? So anytime the question is asking you for your initial point, it's looking for the y-intercept. So what form do you want it to be in? If you're looking for the initial point, which is a y-intercept, what form do you need to put it in? So you're going to have to put it in standard form. Can you guys remind me with the initial point or the y-intercept, what's the value of x? Now when the question is asking you for your break even, that means you're looking for what points on the graph? The zeros. Or in other words, the x-intercepts, right? So anytime the question is asking you for the break-even point or distance or time, you're looking for the zeros. And what form do you want it to be in? In factored. Maximum, minimum, profit, distance, height. So if you're looking for the maximum distance or maximum height or maximum profit, what point am I looking at? What part of the vertex? Am I looking for the whole vertex or am I looking at a certain part of the vertex? The the y value of the vertex, which is called the, no, not the axis of symmetry, optimal value. Which is the y part of your vertex. Which is your k, right? What form should it be in? Vertex form. And then the question is going to ask you the point at which the maximum or minimum occurs. So what value I'm looking at? So when does the maximum or minimum occur? I'm looking for the axis of symmetry, which is the x value of the vertex.